With the 19th pick in the 2014 NBA Draft, the Chicago Bulls select Gary Harris from Michigan State University.
You know, it's interesting. Denver traded for Aaron Aflalo today. They traded Evan Fournier in the 56th pick. I wonder if they would have made that trade if they knew Gary Harris was going to be sitting there at 19.
They would not have made that trade. I said Denver should have taken him the first time around. He fits with what they're trying to do, getting up and down the floor. You pair him in the backcourt with a healthy Ty Lawson. He's a shooter. He also competes defensively. I really like this pick. This is a steal.
I agree. This is the steal of the draft so far, how late this guy went.
He also had some injury issues this past year that contributed to at least moments of inconsistency, but he was a terrific player in his time for Tom Izzo.
The full Gary Harris right there. A real roller coaster of excitement and concern. Oh, man. The steal of the draft.
Maybe we don't have to do the draft hats this year because it's all going to be virtual.
Yeah, we'll be virtual. I wonder how to look. Every other team has already done these virtual drafts, or every other league. Welcome in, everybody, to the DNVR Nuggets podcast. I'm your host, Adam Mares. You just saw Gary Harris, guys. Mr. Nugget, where it all began. That was step one. That was step one right there we just witnessed. Gary Harris's addition to the team. I'm joined by the man with the wind behind his hat, Harrison Wind.
Yeah, man, that was so long ago, man, when Gary Harris was drafted. That was decades ago. That was eras ago.
Yeah, that was crazy. It actually wasn't that long ago, 7 years. So not that long. Then you guys know D-Line. He's D-Line.
What's up, guys? It's good to be known as D-Line. How's it going, everybody? Two new shirts dropped today. Check them out.
2 new shirts dropped today. 2 new hoodies dropped yesterday. Eric's he's just dropping stuff, man. Dropping stuff everywhere, sprinkling
it's
it
hot
on.
over here, baby.
The man with the rice smile. It's Brendan Vogt.
Man, what I would give for a Gary resurgence this season. How fun would that be?
It would be extremely fun. And then I forgot to put him backstage and then bring him on so that people are probably staring, wondering what we're doing here with a fifth member. We got a full starting 5 today, but of course from DNVR Bets and a million other things over at DNVR. It's Andre Simone. Andre, what's going on, brother?
What's up, guys? Excited to do this. Been loving the draft previews. And Adam, I'm kind of hyped. I think, are you getting more into this draft than in any draft past?
No, I'm regularly into the draft. I'm on regular. I like the draft. I like learning about all these guys. I always just say it's so hard, like knowing what these guys are. If you don't spend a full amount of time with it, so many writers. This is what happens. So many writers don't actually spend that much time actually watching the NBA or Denver Nuggets basketball, then they have these horrible takes. I'm always like, I know. So I
really don't want to be that guy.
I don't want to be that guy for the draft. So I want to learn as much about these guys as possible, whatever. But I always couch the opinions with, hey, to really know them requires way more, a full-time commitment. So, but I am excited about it. What about you, Andre? So Andre is a draft guy, all sports. You like the draft. You get deep into the drafts of all the drafts. What is your take on the excitement level you have for this upcoming draft?
Yeah, I'm obsessed about this stuff. I can't wait for this NBA draft. I mean, that's how I like to spend my summers, is grinding just the best skills of all these guys. It's been weird doing it in the fall as I'm also watching college football and the NFL and all that. But no, I'm excited. I'm really ready for this draft. I think it's being just a tad underrated, especially with where the Nuggets are picking. Everyone says, it's a deep draft. You can find good starters in that range, but then everyone likes to crap all over the draft. And it's not a great draft at the top, and we kind of knew that. It's a bad freshman class, and just like there's so many unknowns with the top of the draft, which makes it extra crazy. But I think this draft's getting a bit of a bad rap here, so I'm fairly excited.
We were talking about this either yesterday or the day before about how the draft, forget about the top, because especially since we're not focused as Nuggets fans on like the top of it, but it does seem deep with role players, like good guys, not great, but good guys. So in that regard, I think I agree with you. Today we're going to focus in a little bit more on the guards of this draft, and we've done a lot of the bigs and the wings, but we haven't really talked about. There's a lot of guards, especially like point guards in this draft, so we're going to get into a lot of those. But before we do have to hit the news and notes from around the league, and so we're going to start first. This one's a couple days old, actually. This little nugget for you, but Chris Paul, according to Woj, the Phoenix Suns And the Oklahoma City Thunder are engaged in talks on a trade that would bring Chris Paul to Phoenix. So what's interesting about this one is it's not just the rumor. It sounds like they're actually having discussions, like maybe even negotiations about it. I'm going to start with you, Harrison. What's your first takeaway when you see this news, Chris Paul to Phoenix?
My first thought was, is there any way the Suns try to make this trade if they don't go 8-0 in the bubble? Like, that feels like it gave them a ton of momentum. You can make the argument it's warranted, it's unwarranted, but I don't think they look to make a deal like this if they don't go 8-0, and they didn't even make the playoffs, but they had a good showing in the bubble. Also, like, it's not just that Phoenix wants to trade or for Chris Paul and like Oklahoma City thinks they could get a decent package back. Chris Paul obviously wants to go to Phoenix. He obviously would be fine playing for Monty Williams there. He obviously likes the pieces that he could be playing around with Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton. So that's another aspect to this as well.
Do you think, Vo, Chris Paul doesn't have a lot of time left as an NBA player. He's old. He's my age. He's old. Is it a little, I don't know, disappointing that maybe he would end up like spending the twilight of his career helping Phoenix get into the 8 seed?
You know, we can't have it both ways. I thought about that, and then I realized, no, it's dope. Because how easily could we be talking about somehow one of the LA teams doing this, or him going to Golden State and just trying to get that ring, which I think he would be entitled to. The idea that there's mutual interest here, I think, is actually a really exciting and good development for the league. You should want teams like Phoenix to get better. And you know, the idea of Devin Booker and DeAndre Ayton getting to play with a quality basketball player is really fun. I think that's good for the league. So in a sense, I agree with you, Adam, because I don't think Phoenix wins a ring with Chris Paul, and that's maybe a waste of the twilight of his career. But it's cooler to me that it's Phoenix and not the usual suspect.
Andre, am I underselling this? Is like Chris Paul and Phoenix with Ayton and Booker? Is this like maybe a sneaky good team? Maybe not a contender, but like, are they like a 4 seed?
Are they better than Oklahoma City with Chris Paul?
That's the thing. Like on paper, yes, they would be, but I don't know if the pieces come together as well as they did in Oklahoma City. They should be,
right?
But I'm not buying it as a 4 seed. No.
I mean, it is intriguing for what it could do for Phoenix in reaching their potential, especially what it does for Booker or Ayton. The other thing is OKC. This is going to be a massive offseason for them. There's rumors not only of this trade, but them trying to move maybe Shea to move up to 1, which would be crazy. Yeah. Maybe them targeting LaMelo. One way or another, I think we might be getting LaMelo in the Northwest Division, and I'm all for it. That's nonstop entertainment.
What do we think this Phoenix package would look like? Is it like Oubre and some picks? That's sort of my general understanding.
I think so, because that's how I understood it as well, is that maybe this was more of a Phoenix's ability to absorb Chris Paul's massive contract without sending out like tons of money to match or whatever. So, but still, you would miss some piece of like your rotation, of course, and Oubre seems like a likely candidate. I do think that this moves like Phoenix into the Oklahoma City tier. Maybe they're a little bit better, but I still don't know that I would be like afraid of a Phoenix team that had Booker, Ayton, and Chris Paul. I think it's a good team, but not maybe not a threat to Denver immediately.
Man, I'm so interested to see what becomes of Oklahoma City over these next months and years. Like with the amount of capital that they've acquired over the past,
unreal.
It's like offensive a little bit. It's like. I don't know. I mean, they can completely reshape their squad and have it look nothing like it does today. It's crazy too because they weren't even bad last year.
Yeah, but I do think that they're in position with their picks that I would do the Denver process. They're in the Denver tier of like you're not going to attract these free agents or whatever, so you need to develop as many of these guys as possible, and then in a future date, probably 4 years from now, you try to start consolidating those things. So,
from a Nuggets perspective on this trade, I think it's a positive for Denver in the sense that he moves out of the Northwest Division, CP3, and it seems like the schedule might be division heavy next season. So that would be good for the Nuggets. But yeah, like you said, Adam, the Suns are moving up a tier with this trade. I think definitely a clear tier. So it could put, not that the Nuggets, I don't think will feel the pressure, but maybe a slight pressure to keep improving.
OKC, by the way, they've got pick 25 from Denver this year, then a 2021 first from Miami, then a 2022 first from the Clippers, then a 2023 first from the Clippers, then a 2023 first from Miami, then a 2024 first from Houston, another 24 first from the Clippers, and a 25 first round pick from Houston.
Sam Hinkie might join this team as Sam Hinkie might join the Thunder as an unpaid intern just to get on with that.
They're in position because there's a real chance this Clippers team just like falls completely flat and then has nothing to build off of, and they're just like consistently the 5th worst team in the NBA.
And Houston, Thunder could be rolling in some valuable picks.
Another piece of news here: we got Kevin O'Connor from The Ringer talking about the Celtics have emerged as a potential destination for Drew Holiday. Everybody's in on Drew Holiday. There's 29 teams trying to get Drew Holiday, and apparently, so they have this picks 14, 26, and 30 that they feel maybe they can flip upwards to try to get that top 10 pick maybe to send out for Drew Holiday. All right. How much of a bummer is this news? A bummer, Andre, that Drew Holiday sounds like maybe the price is just continuing to rise. Probably, maybe outside of Denver's price range.
Well, like 3 picks outside the top 13. That's all it takes.
But you consolidate those to get. Yeah, but then you consolidate those to get the 8th pick or something. That's the idea.
The Celtics have been trying to consolidate all these picks for many years. This is basically what you hear a week leading into every draft for the last 5. To my knowledge, they haven't really been able to do that thus far. I think this is more wishful thinking from the Celtics than anything real. But I don't know. Would you rather that than the potential package the Nuggets are offering?
I mean, yeah. I want that better pick. So whether that's Denver or Boston that's able to consolidate and move up, I would probably want 1 top 10 pick, even in this draft, more so than 2 late first rounders or 3 late first rounders.
Right. I mean, maybe it's so hard to know what these teams want. I do think that with the way that New Orleans, just their timeline, Zion being so young, and you got still Ingram and Lonzo, like I feel like they can afford to maybe play we have multiple picks and we're going to kind of plant all these seeds. And I mean, they're a little bit ahead of Oklahoma City on that timeline, but maybe not enough that they have to speed things up.
Nothing ever tickles me more than just the perceived value of picks in the world of just GMing, where it's like, do you want this boat or these picks? And it's like, well, I don't want that boat. Like, what we take these picks? The picks could be a boat. That'd be amazing.
But you know what? But we talked about this with Bowl, and it's the opposite a little bit. Like, if you are a GM and you have draft picks, you get to tell your owner, like, hey man, you can't really evaluate me personally for 3 years because we got these picks, and it's going to take 3 years before you know if I was right or wrong.
That would be my move.
Some of these guys are like, hey man, I got 3 years job security because this has always been the plan.
Like, did you draft a 15-year-old? You're like,
it's still 17. Gotta give him time.
Really got to give him time. It works for most GMs. It didn't work. Sam Hinkie is the funniest one because he actually did the best job of that and got fired anyway before like right at the knee of the curve. They were like, we're sick of waiting. He's like, what the hell?
Wait a second, we're this close.
We're right there. Okay, what other news do we have? Let's. This is. I don't even have a tweet to pull up on this one. It's just the Houston Rockets are exploding. An explosive article in the Athletic.
Or something we could use.
Yeah, explosive article in the Athletic yesterday, just talking about how. And let's read between the lines on some of this because. Daryl Morey was out. Mike D'Antoni was out. Those are big losses. But then, here's the crazy part. Russell Westbrook apparently didn't like the culture there. And he talks about how there wasn't enough accountability. It sure seems like everybody that goes into Houston has something to say about just the way the culture's not right. They're lazy. There's no account. Is James Harden just like the worst superstar we have in terms of? I mean, honestly, is he Russell Westbrook? We think can be a toxic teammate or whatever, like tough this or that. But at least he wants to win, Jimmy Butler style. It sounds like this was a stray bullet at James Harden. Am I hearing things, Harrison?
No, I mean you're 100% right, man. James Harden's a great player, but he is tough to build around. It's just taxing being James Harden's teammate, I feel like. It wears on you, man. Just watching that guy dribble the air out of the ball every single night for 82 games, that wears on you. But, I mean, is this really that surprising that like Houston is combusting like this? This whole thing was either going to end in them winning a championship, which always seemed like a super pipe dream, even when they went like miniature, or it was going to end like
close.
this.
Come on.
And, you know, but this is what happens. This is what happens.
Yeah.
When you don't like think about culture at all when you're building, when you don't think about chemistry, this is how things end.
It feels to me like the whole culture was like, what is it? Is it Astro World? That sort of like fictional kind of like musical theme park. It was like James Harden World in Houston. Like their top 1, 2, and 3 priorities were keeping him happy, almost more so than winning a title. It felt like at times. And so I'm not surprised at all to hear any sort of lack of accountability stuff. It felt to me like James Harden was in charge. And I mean, I think the best player in every organization has input, but it felt to me like he almost transcended the organization. And I don't think that works when you're the Bulls and you have MJ. But for the most part, I don't think that's a healthy dynamic.
It even works when you have LeBron. I mean, look, you have to be a certain caliber talent. It's all about, you talk about Daryl Morey, you know, the analytics guy that has been so perfect at that aspect of it. But it's like being great on offense or being great on defense. You can be a great offensive team, but you also have to be above a certain threshold. And maybe that threshold is lower. If you're in a number 1 offense, that threshold's a little bit lower, but it's not erased completely. Your number 1 defense team, same thing. You have to have a little bit of offense. I feel like you have to have some combination of culture and then just those other parts, being smart around the edges or whatever. And it seems like Houston was always A+ at assembling these pieces that fit together, and the analytics and the coach and all this, but they were always just at right 1/2 step below on the culture thing. And now you get rid of D'Antoni, you get rid of Daryl Morey. Now I'm sure going forward they're going to be terrible at that other aspect while not having any type of culture. And it does feel like this Houston Rockets team is in for they've fallen off the cliff. I really think they're going to fall off the cliff. Where does Russell Westbrook go? What happens to Russell Westbrook, Eric? Like, are you intrigued? I saw there's some people in Denver that want him to come to Denver. This is the opportunity for a superstar.
What say you?
That makes me absolutely want to kill myself. Do not bring Russell Westbrook here under any sort. Like
him and Jokic are buddies.
Yeah, great.
They can ride around in Jokic's Mercedes.
I think those two people we've just talked about, James Harden and Russell Westbrook, possess my 2 least favorite games in the NBA. Like they're the 2 superstars that I like watching the absolute least. And the other thing about James Harden, like, has any teammate ever thrown Chris Paul under the bus before? Like,
right, yeah,
ever?
right.
Like, and James Harden did it like a weird subversive way. He was like, "Oh, I know what the problem is," and then they.
Meanwhile, the Thunder were like actually really
Chris
good.
Paul.
Yeah, what a complete dickhead! This guy, like, he's just like the problem with Daryl Morey, like deifying James Harden, is that he like allowed it to happen in his own mind, and then you just kind of see the way that he strides around and like like just this coming out. Like, I don't know that I would have guessed it, but me hearing this makes like complete sense. Like, absolutely. Oh yeah, that sounds awful.
Don't you feel like we know just what Jimmy Butler would think of playing with James Harden? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
of course.
He'd be there for like a week. Like, yeah.
This is an interesting question, Andre. Westbrook or Harden? You Nuggets are force fed. They have to take one, man. Which one are you taking?
For one, I don't think that that on-track Westbrook has, no one can take that.
I'm throwing this out. No. We're just having a fun thought experiment. They're free. They're both free.
You have to do it, Andre. I'm going to tweet it out.
I'm taking Harden and not even thinking about it. And I'm saying I'm putting him on rest management. He's like not even playing 25 games. I'm turning it into a spot-up shooter. That's what I'm doing with James Harden. I don't need. It's like he's my
he'll be happy
six man again. ISO ball 6 man. That's all he's doing. I don't even. Back to the OKC days. 6 man on the bench.
This is the thing about sports, man. Is like, look, Rockets fans seemed pretty happy with their players. Like they've been caping for Harden since he got there. But it does feel like I'm just so thankful we have Jokic and Murray to root for. Like it would suck to have to root for Westbrook and Harden, man. Like even if they're awesome,
let's go Dwight.
Like,
let's go Dwight. You go out there.
Dwight. Oh my! Imagine having to cheer for Dwight the entire time.
Nuggets are absolutely going to get Dwight. We're going to be absolutely fully testing this.
My favorite aggregator headline from this Athletic article is James Harden not taking accountability. Like, yeah, no kidding. That's probably the whole problem, guys. And when a guy is given 100% of the responsibility on the court, yeah, if you don't take accountability, yeah, it's going to crumble. It's logical.
We're going to take a break. On the other side, though, we're going to get into the guards. Tyrese Haliburton? Little Maxey? I don't know. Maybe those guys out of the range. Maybe we'll have to go further down the list. Cole Anthony. We'll see. We're going to talk guards. We haven't talked guards. We'll talk them on the other side.
Yeah, guys, we've got the Masters going on as we speak. My favorite golf tournament, and probably the coolest and like most fun sporting event to bet on. I think just the options, the props, just the things you can bet on.
Tiger's doing great. He's at the top, right? Isn't Tiger at the top right now?
I see a lot of Tiger.
Is he?
chatter.
Yeah, there's a lot of Tiger chatter.
Hey,
I'm here for it. I'm here.
A lot of Tiger emojis happening right now.
Yeah, but this Sunday, obviously, when the Masters wraps up, will be a Sunday like no other. With this weekend's major golf tournament, along with both professional and collegiate football, there will be no shortage of action. DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook, wants to put you in the center of the action. So many different ways to make it rain. If you haven't tried the app yet, head to the App Store now because you don't want to miss this. To celebrate Sunday's action, DraftKings is ensuring all new users are covered up to $100. That's right, you bet and they cover with risk-free Sunday betting on the Masters, on college football, on pro football, on all of Sunday's action. So make sure to download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code DNVR when you sign up to get this can't-miss offer. DraftKings Sportsbook is ensuring your Sunday bets up to $100. That's right, you bet and they cover up to $100 when you use the promo code DNVR. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook. For a limited time, must be 21 or older, Colorado only. Risk-free coverage paid out in site credits. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem, call 1-800-522-4700.
Andre Simone is going to be giving us bets live on our draft show, which next Wednesday, I'm telling you, everybody, clear your schedules. Next Wednesday is going to be a great one, an all-timer. It's going to be like 4 hours of the DNVR show. It's going to be fantastic, all kinds of guests. But Andre Simone, handicapping, who's going to go where, how many trades are going to happen, all kinds of cool stuff. And we might be betting live on the show on these very things, just to give a little extra excitement. I can't wait for it. It's going to be fun.
I can't wait for a pick to be announced to me for just to scream "fuck" at the top of my lungs.
That'd be amazing.
Great.
Okay, so let's talk guards, guys. Let's get into this. I am under the impression, I've said this before, that the Nuggets take either a guard or a big, not a wing. I know everybody's like, oh, they need a wing guy, and I think that's where they'll go. And you see all these mocks have like the Nuggets taking just whatever best wing is available. I don't think that's the case. And it's funny because I haven't really given this too much thought, but Monte Morris, especially there was a report today that said Monte Morris might be worth $12 million on the open market here once his contract's up. If that's the case, almost certainly he's gone. Like, no, he's a great player. He might deserve that kind of money, and I would be happy for him to get it. But as Denver moves into this next phase, they can't afford expensive backup centers, backup point guard. Like that's not where you spend. You spend on your starting roster. You spend on your sixth man, which is not Monte. He's a great guy, but he's not like your six-man type. And then you have to just get elite guys. So Denver might be looking. This might be that year where you bring in a young point guard, rides the bench for 1 year, and then next year steps into that role. I think that's actually extremely plausible. Harrison, what do you think about that? I mean, I haven't thought too much about that until the last couple of days, and now I'm thinking, the guard spot makes a lot of sense for Denver.
Well, there's a lot of potential backup point guards in this draft. Not even like just guys at the top, because there's a couple point guards at the top of this draft that project as starters. But when you get into the 20s, there's just a lot of guys who could be projectable as backups, to be honest. And that's like a deep part of this draft, point guard. And I think that's a route Denver could go. But like, honestly, I'm not in love with any of the point guards that are like projected to go in the 20s. I like a couple at the top of the draft. But if I'm the Nuggets, man, I would be pretty cool with riding Jamal Murray and PJ Dozier, and then picking up like an undrafted free agent point guard that I really like on a two-way deal, and have him waiting in the wings. And if you want to move off of Monte that way, I think you could. I'd be cool with that approach.
I see some comments in here about Dozier, and I think that's accurate. I mean, look, I love you guys know we're full PJ Dozier fans here of this panel.
We like PJ Dozier podcast.
This is a PJ Dozier podcast. So it's very possible that he steps in and becomes that role. It's also possible that maybe you just look at guards in general, maybe not point guards, but, PJ, I think, can play the 2, not as a shooter, but as a secondary ball handler. He could also play the 1, so you might just look at guys and say, okay, do we have other combo guards that work alongside PJ if he's part of the plan? So that's that. So, Andre, I'm going to go to you first. The Nuggets have been rumored to move up into the top 10 of the draft, or at least be having those conversations. I think it's unlikely. I think if they do that, I would guess that's more to flip the pick for Drew Holiday, but maybe they just like a guy up at the top. If they like a guard up in the top 10 of the draft, who is their guy?
Man, at the very top, I mean, I'm going off the assumption of a backup point guard, because if you're trading into the top 10, you want a little more than a backup point guard.
Well, that's true. Yeah, this might be more than that. Yeah.
So starting with the guards fitting that scenario, I think Isaiah Okoro is the only natural fit. The kind of bulldog guard for Auburn will be cited by a lot of SEC prospects as one of the tougher dudes in that conference to go again. Get some Jimmy Butler comps.
Oh wow,
would be really intriguing next to Jamal in that 2 spot. But
6'6", 6'9" wingspan, 225. So he is like a sturdy, long, athletic defender.
Mm-hmm. And at points in the season was being mocked as high as 4 or 5. Now the range is a little more fluid, could drop a bit, and
9 or 10.
It's because the shot. It's because the jump shot. At Auburn, the biggest criticism you'll hear is he'd even pass up some open threes. I don't think that jump shot's broken. He's just lacking confidence and is really relying on other areas of his game. So I don't know. I don't know if you could afford to take a guy on like that and then neglect some of the spacing issues. But if you're looking at a potential upgrade of what you hoped Gary Harris could be, Okoro's the first guy I've kind of got circled in that top 10.
So first thing I want to get to here, and then I'll throw it to you, Vote, in Wind. But the first thing I want to look at is, if you just go off his physical profile, almost exactly the same measurements as Justice Winslow. So I think it helps to picture the physical profile of the player, because you look at him and go, okay, Justice Winslow is really sturdy. Like even though he's only 6'6", he's got that long wingspan and he's got just a sturdy frame that he can guard 6'8", 6'9". So I think that's, at least physically, I don't know about the style of play. Right. Vote, what do you know about Okoro?
I think he looks to be probably the best defender in this draft, or at least one of them. But I'm just so wary of guys that I think are going to be extremely limited offensively at this point. Me too. And we've beat this point to death, but Malone's affinity for playing those guys, often sort of having to choose between offense or defense. To me, if you're trading up, I'm not super enticed by the idea of trading up for a guy that might very well never pan out on one half of the floor. So, I think Okoro will be a great pick for some team. I think he's going to be a stud defender, but that's not the move, in my opinion, for Denver.
Harrison?
Yeah, I'd agree. I mean, Isaac Okoro, he has the makeup to be just like an elite NBA stopper, like all defensive team type of guy. A guy that you can throw on a James Harden, a Luka Doncic, and he's going to do a really good job on those guys. I'm not sure if I see it for Denver, though, just because, like you were saying, Adam, if they trade up, I think that pick is probably getting flipped. And if they were to keep it, like Okoro is a guy Mike Malone would love. Like he would absolutely love Isaac Okoro. But offensively, he's got questions. Like, I think he has the tools to be a good offensive option. I don't think the shot is broken. He can get to the rim. Yeah. He's actually a really strong and really good finisher inside. But a bit of a project on that end of the floor.
It's funny, Eric, because there's certain profiles of a player that you get excited for whether you know about them or not. Like, if I just tell you, the Nuggets are drafting a incredible 3-point shooter and volume score, you're just like, oh man, this is exciting. Like, oh, look at these highlights, he's dunking on guys. And if you're like, hey, he's a great defensive stopper, but he can't really shoot or dribble, you're like, oh, I don't care who this guy is.
You're like, this guy is 6'7", he has a jumper that's wet as the ocean.
Yeah.
His name is Tyler Lydon. We're gonna bring him in.
It's so true. It's so true.
Might be able to block some shots at the NBA.
Got a nose for the rebound.
I've talked about this before, but I think one of the things about building around Jokic is that I do think your guards just need to be able to handle the ball. So this idea, like I think if you play with LeBron and you have a Caruso who can't shoot or whatever, it works because LeBron is so good at getting around his defender. He doesn't need the like teamwork aspect to create. You just need the pick and roll. You broke down the defense, now you find the guy. With Denver, I do think you need a little bit more ball movement. You need guys that can make plays. So I'm always, whenever I hear of a guy like that, I'm just like, that doesn't fit. That might fit better in other places than Denver. Where else could we go? Oh, go ahead.
And I love the Winslow comp. Couldn't you just call up Miami? If you want Okoro, don't move up and spend a bunch. Call up Miami. See if you can trade for a guy like Winslow for cheap, like.
Yeah, he's shown that he has a real affinity for a place like Denver.
He's with Memphis though. He was in that trade.
Oh, that's right. I forgot all about that.
That's right. Yeah.
You call him Miami anyway.
Yeah, you call Miami. They're like, excuse me, you have the wrong number.
You got to check his references.
Let's talk about Tyrese Haliburton because he's the other guy that I've seen up there in that top 10 that maybe fits Denver's profile. And here's why I think he fits it, because I keep hearing the Lonzo Ball comp with him. That's the extent of my caping for him. Andre, give me the Tyrese Haliburton rundown that you have.
Well, he's an analytics darling, so I know I'm all in. Tyrese Haliburton.
Feed me, baby, feed me.
You don't have to watch. This is a guy, read the scouting report, you'll fall in love instantly because the three-point shot looks terrible. Similar to Lonzo, the percentages are really nice. Good defender, good size, can handle the ball. Where he's got a little more swag and flares is in the open court. Really like the way he pushes the tempo. I thought he would have been a top 10 pick last year. He's played with a really good Iowa State program. So there's a lot to like. He's one of those rare and such a kind of wacky draft, especially at the top. Him and Danny, I feel like, are the two few safe picks. But then with every safe pick, there's always the concern of how high is that ceiling, which maybe in Denver doesn't matter because he can be that secondary ball handler. The shot's not broken. He's going to get enough space to get that off anyways. He's good defensively. He's got that length. He could complement Jamal. He could play with both Monty and Jamal.
Right.
Yeah, he would be a really nice fit. Would I sell the farm to move up and get him? I don't know. But he would be a phenomenal fit.
So the thing here, we talked about the certain skill sets that a player doesn't have that maybe we don't really care about, and the number one of that is shot creation, right? Like the one-on-one. He's not a great elite. He's not an elite one-on-one guard. It's like sweet, perfect. That's a huge plus.
I love it. Yeah.
Right.
And that's kind of the knock on him is he seems like a really good team player, super high IQ. He's got great length. He's a little skinny, a little small. That's another concern, but he's got great length. He's kind of a Will Barton build, and he can do it. He's a do everything type guard. And I kind of like that. Harrison, what's your read?
Yeah, I'm a big Haliburton guy, and just talking about a potential fit in Denver, while it's probably a long shot that they would get him, I think he'd be a great piece here. Something else that I think needs to surround Jokic, if you're just kind of building a team around him, is high IQ guys. And that's like exactly what Tyrese Haliburton is. He can run the pick and roll. He's unselfish. He can cut. He knows his role in an offense. Another big thing if you're going to be a role player in this league, and we've seen this in Denver, but knowing your role when it comes to like a guy like Monte Morris is such a skill. And I think that's something Tyrese Haliburton definitely has. So I think he'd be a great piece. Like you guys have mentioned, I don't think he has a ceiling necessarily as like an all-NBA guy, but that's fine if you're Denver. So I love his frame, 6'5" with a 6'8" wingspan. He can play both guard spots, and he fits in Jokic ball, I think.
I think Haliburton is very unlikely, though. That's the problem. I see him in mocks 5, 6, 7. Denver, if they trade up, I think they trade up to like 8, 9, 10. And again, I think if they do that, they're probably moving it for Drew. So as much as I like Haliburton, probably not in the plans. Another guy moving down the draft a little bit, RJ Hampton. I keep hearing him as a guy that Denver would like. It sounds to me like pretty raw. Andre, what's your scouting report on him? I know we would pick up some Australian followers.
Yeah,
our Australian followers would be happy.
That'd be fun. Just the guy who left us wanting for more. All the high school hype didn't really translate this year. Even they had some games where they played some NBA teams. You know, they do that, the international series in the preseason. And he was just like letting guys by, like seeing asleep on the defensive end. But he's that classic. We see guys like this every single draft. Since we were drafting guys out of high school, he's that 6'5" wing, tons of talent. Could play a little on the one as a big guard, could play a little as the shooting guard if he can refine that shot a little more. You love the tools. he's one of those guys where other teams, like, I don't know if I'm a Wizards fan or a fan of some of those more broken franchises, they draft Hampton, and I'm like, oh, great.
Right.
He's never going to develop.
So that feels like a Charlotte Hornets pick, huh?
Right,
That sounds like a total
exactly.
Charlotte. Oh.
As a Nuggets fan, though, you trust this front office so much, you say, hey, they believe in RJ, I'm all in. I'm down. So,
Eric, if I tell you he's a 3-and-D guard that can't shoot and can't really defend, like, are you...
What does the D stand for then in 3-and-D?
Dunk. He's like a hyper athlete, you know?
I mean, I don't know. Like, it is funny. Like, there are all these archetypes that you feel like would just be a perfect synergy with the team, but like, it just doesn't work that way. Like, it really just comes down to, is this whoever we draft, like, do they want to win? Do they want to win in the way that the Nuggets want to win? Like, are they working on their sham god? Are they trying to break fools down on the dribble? Like, no thanks. Like, we've got Will Barton for that. So, man, I don't know. I'm very interested to see what the front office thinks of these guys. I mean, like Andre says, like, if the front office is into it, like, I'm immediately like, this is the best player in the world. I can't wait to see him. You got to get him out there.
What is Hampton's role in Denver, you know? And that, to me, that's sort of it. Like, I get they have their athletic scoring on ball guard, you know? And so if I think if you feel really comfortable picking up a more sort of floor general type guard or something like that to fill the backup role, you're maybe more comfortable. Hampton, to me, is more like if he somehow slid all the way, you know, to where you were picking or a couple of picks ahead of you, then it's a different looking flyer. But I just feel like it would be a reach to go up and go get him.
Yeah, Hampton is a team betting on their player development program because he's a year or two out from like really playing, especially for a good team. But what I will say about Hampton is I think he might have the quickest first step in the draft.
Right,
like we need the soccer.
Yeah, he is. He's like not a Zach LaVine level athlete.
No, that's who I compare him to.
No, that's who I compare him to. But Zach LaVine is like in the top 1% of NBA athletes. I don't think RJ Hampton is going to be in the top 1% of it. Maybe he's in the top 90%, not the top 1%. But he does remind you a lot of Zach LaVine in other aspects of his game. His first step is like unbelievable. He just like gets the ball and hits turbo, and he's suddenly at the rim.
So Hampton's even projected to go up. I could see him falling on draft night because of all the reasons we're talking about. It's one of my least favorite archetypes is the guy that has like all the physical tools. He just has to develop the basketball. Because I'm like, we act like that's easy. You know, like we act like that's the part that's like some simple is like, well, if he just learns to dribble, shoot, and defend, he can really.
Like, meanwhile, you could go into like Venice Beach, and it's like everybody has long arms that you're walking by. You're like, oh, that guy really profiles to be an NBA starting.
It is. That's like Jaden McDaniels. Also, yeah. You're like, that guy looks like the prototype modern NBA defender, but he's not good yet.
There's a Jaden McDaniels hide. I don't know if you guys saw on YouTube. Somebody said they are bookmarking this one to throw it back in our faces. So
I did see for that. Shout out Omar Wen. I actually just wrote a Jaden McDaniels profile last night. If you want to go read it on the DNVR.com.
Boom! What a little tease right there. There's a little. Hold on. There's a little nugget for you. Where's my little thing? There it is.
Did Guy make that? I love that guy.
That's a great one. Great. All right, let's get back to 22 then. And these guys are projected to go a little bit ahead of that. But Andre, who would be the guy at 22 for you if they were going to take a guard? It's guard or bust for the Nuggets. Who do you think that guy is?
I kind of hate taking a guard at 22, but I feel that's what's going to happen.
Really?
I think they'll kind of be stuck into taking a guard. So there are two guards I would like at 22. One's if Tyrese Maxey drops, and I mean he's kind of
projected a little higher.
There's some mocks, but to me, the real guy is Bolmaro. I love that when you guys were talking on the last pod, you compared him to Will Barton, I think, Adam. And that's the comp I've had in my mind all along for Bolmaro. Love the defense, former track and field athlete, have concerns about the vertical athleticism, but I think, that's something he'll get at Red Rocks. He'll start running laps. He'll get some muscles under there and get that vertical athleticism is going to come to length. he was really smothering these smaller EuroLeague guards. I love his on-ball defense, love his playmaking ability, and that's where I think he could be like Will Barton. He could be that secondary playmaker. He could be a decent defender. So he checks off a lot of boxes. He can play with Monty. He can play with Jamal.
I love that you call him Monty, not Monte.
I'm terrible with names. And so I
Monty
really
Williams.
like that fit. The problem is he's played his way into getting minutes with Barcelona. Huge thing for him. For example, Poku's not doing that. But right now he can't hit a shot to save his life. They're already playing in 2020. So
that's my hesitation.
Not great.
It's the guard that can't shoot.
That could change. What I am comforted is as he's struggling to shoot right now, he's getting to the line against these grown men in the EuroLeague, in the ACB, and he's hitting. He's only missed one free throw all season, I think 21 to 22. And isn't that what we always hear? The best translation to shot is going to be high percentages from the stripe. So I believe in that shot a little more. And I think his fit would be really nice. And yeah, he's going to be a draft and stash. But 2021, he's going to be fairly NBA ready, more so than some of these other guys.
You know what I like? You know what I like is a comp where you don't just like if it's a European guy, you just don't compare with another European guy.
Right, of course.
When it's not like he's like a young Manu Ginobili or just like another white guy. He's like a Tyler Hero type. Like, so the fact that we're comparing him to Will Barton gives me heart. I like it.
I think that here's what I think. I think Andre wants to bring back Gallinari. I think he wants to get Balmaro. I think he wants to maybe get Bellinelli, maybe Melli. Because people don't know this. Andre Simone, he's Italian, and so I find it very unsurprising that you picked the Argentinian Italian here, and that's your go-to guy. I mean, is a little bias here? Am I not wrong?
I mean, I've been known to gravitate to Euro prospects before. I won't lie about that. I do think that some of the knocks on him are kind of silly, though. Like, I've heard like, oh, scouts didn't get over to Barcelona to see him in time. Like, okay, I don't care. That's not, the old scouting adage of don't hold something against a player that's out of their control. And I think we can do that too much with the NBA draft. Here's the thing about Bolmaro. This year is kind of huge for him. This could really make or break. Yeah. I think we could get to previewing the 2021 draft and be like, oh, man, Bolmaro's coming over. I think if he was in this class after the year he had at Barcelona, he'd be a top 15 pick. Or it's like, yeah, he never found his shot. He was probably not even a first rounder that week.
Harrison, what's your read?
I mean, I like Bolmaro because he's like a 6'7" point guard potentially. Yeah. I just like that makeup of player with great vision. He's a great passer. He sees the floor really well. The thing I don't like is, I mean, he could potentially be a draft and stash for 2 years, I think I was hearing. Definitely 1 year. And he could be over in Barcelona for 2 more seasons. That's kind of iffy to me if you're picking him at 22. Like it seems a little early for a draft and stash like that.
Yeah. Can you give us, Andre, just maybe 20 seconds of you really caping for Bolmaro in Italian?
Italian, right?
Just go full Italian here.
As a professor.
You're putting me on the spot. I'll build up to it, and I'll give that to you at the end of the show.
Okay, sounds good. Should we hit a break? And then on the other side, I see a lot of Josh Green love going on, including from our own AJ Hayfley. We talked about him a little bit on this show, but we'll talk a little bit more. No, not AJ. Josh Green. But first, let's hit our last break before we get to him, Cole Anthony, a bunch of other guards here in that 22 range.
Yeah, guys, make sure to download WGT, World Golf Tour, the official gaming partner here at DNVR. We had the DNVR Masters this last weekend.
No, we didn't. It's coming up this weekend.
Oh, yeah. It's coming up this weekend. I've just been seeing it all over social media. Like, I feel like I've played it already.
Many people are talking about it.
Election Open was last weekend.
That's right. The Election Open was last weekend. The DNVR Masters is this coming weekend. Make sure to register for it, and you can win awesome prizes. How you register for it, download the game, WGT, join the DNVR 3 Country Club, and then we're playing the Pinehurst Closest to the Pin Challenge this weekend. And what you have to do after you play, screenshot your scorecard and reply to the pin thread on the DNVR_sports account with it, or you can email your scorecard to info@thednvr.com. Once you have entered to win, we will choose a random winner each week to pick out a DNVR shirt of your choice and mask, and we will ship it to you as well. So we're doing these every weekend up until Christmas, the DNVR Masters this weekend on WGT. So that should be a lot of fun.
I straight embarrassed myself last week during the election open. I put up a very unsavory score. I got to recover, guys.
Well, the election open, a lot of us were under a lot of heat. I felt like it was just a stressful time.
It was. I didn't limber my fingers up properly. I don't know what I was doing.
Did get that practice around it.
I think the scorecard had me like 25th, but I have yet to concede. I'm still protesting the results.
Count all the strokes.
Wait. Stop the count.
Stop the count.
Also, guys, Strava Craft Coffee offering an awesome deal right now to DNVR members. Tuesday, 11/10. So this past Tuesday through next Monday, the 16th. All DNVR members will receive 30% off their purchase at Strava. I don't think they've done a deal this good. They usually do the 20% deal. 30% off your purchase at Strava up until Monday, the 16th. Of course, Strava Craft Coffee packed with CBD helps relieve long-term migraines, back pain, even some stress, aches and pains if you're feeling that these days. IBS.
Yeah. Brandon always hits that one a little hard that we're all comfortable with, right?
We don't know what IBS stands for. You just gotta, just say IBS.
I believe it's an old wooden ship.
That's the one. You can get 30% off Strava Craft Coffee if you're a DNVR member. So take advantage of that offer. If you are a member, you should have received your email with details on how to retrieve that 30% off Strava.
All right, we got to go a little fast here, so we got to go quick notes on these guys. But Cole Anthony, Andre, what's your take on Cole Anthony?
He's a guy I've had to circle back to because I hate his Nuggets fit so much. I hated him as a prospect, and this is the circle back. Like, what do I not see that others see? If you squint a little, you can see some Kemba in his game. This was obviously a terrible season for him. I've really come back to something you told me like during the playoff series, Adam, that one thing the Nuggets could really benefit from is a quick twitch perimeter guy who can break guys down one-on-one. He doesn't bring any other skill the Nuggets need other than that, but he does.
He can shoot a little.
He can shoot, yeah.
He can shoot. I mean, the Kemba comp is there if he can develop. Lots of injuries, a bit rough getting into the lane and stuff. He'll benefit from NBA spacing. I don't love it, but he's a guy I can get sold on if the Nuggets believe in him.
What do you think, Vote?
I think both he and Tyrese Maxey, you're looking at guys that like you're hoping they can provide some scoring pop off the bench. Yeah. I definitely looked at Cole Anthony as that guard the Nuggets can't defend themselves. Probably a little bit of he's a better defender than Kemba, but still only 6'3". Both those guys are only 6'3". And that's part of my hang up on those two guys. They're actually both, I'm talking Maxey and Anthony here. They're both strong point of attack defenders, engaged off ball defenders. But how much does that matter in the NBA when you're only 6'3"?
So from a physical comp, who he actually is identical to is Kyrie Irving. Which Kyrie Irving's a little small too, but at least he's like a little bit. He just doesn't feel as small as Kemba. Kemba's so teeny and thin as well. Cole Anthony, maybe you get a little bit closer to a Kyrie body. I don't know. He looks pretty small on film.
I mean, look, I think if you totally hit on this pick, optimistic projection, I mean, this guy could be a lead guard one day. Not a transcendent passer, but a good one, and can probably score at the next level. But how efficient will that be? And how much will his size hold him back? The efficiency is interesting because he did not play in an ideal sort of scenario. Two bigs on the floor a lot of the time. It's sometimes the only real three-point threat on the floor. So we'll have to see. But the size is an issue for me.
So a couple other quick notes here, Harrison, then I'll throw it to you. But we saw this comment. The Nuggets do seem to have a lot of these guys. I mean, Michael Porter, Bol, Cole Anthony, who all – were super, super hyped in high school and then maybe didn't, either injury or something has happened. In Cole Anthony's case, I think a little bit of both. maybe a little underwhelming in his little college career, but then also a little injury. But then also the pedigree. So he's Greg Anthony's son. You know, obviously Greg Anthony, former NBA player. You see a little bowl. You know, you have that connection. So maybe there's something here with a little bit of the pedigree. All of those things the Nuggets seem to like.
Yeah, I would say the only thing that's different from Porter and Bowl, like Porter just got injured, like his first game in college didn't play. Bowl was amazing when he was on the floor. Like he was an unbelievable college player, but then got injured. Cole Anthony just wasn't that good this last year. Like he had some injury
concerns as well. And didn't he have like an incredible first game? Wasn't his first game of the season just like incredible?
It was his best game of the season, I believe. Yeah,
was number one.
Delivered the win.
Same thing with Maxey.
Yeah.
Blew it up game one and then kind of slowed down after that.
I just hope we get a guy that had a bad year leading into the draft. Everyone's like, you can't shoot or play that well. But
hey, you might get it with your Jaden McDaniels pick, bro. That could very well happen.
Let's go.
I mean, the case for him is he was a top 5 prospect coming into the year, MVP of the McDonald's game, Nike Hoop Summit. Like when stacked up against these other top freshmen, he looked like the best of the best. Yeah. And I would not read too much into one bad season. It's more the fit that just.
Yeah.
What do you think about the fit, Harrison? Sorry.
He's a score first guy who's been like a number one option his entire career. So I'm not a big fan of the fit, to be honest. Like I just think like if I'm targeting a potential backup point guard, I want more of a ball mover. I want a bigger guy. I want a defender. He doesn't seem like a Jokic ball type player to me.
Is there another guard in this range? Let's save Josh Green for the very end here, but is there another guard in this range, Andre, that you look at that intrigues you?
I mean, Malachi Flynn, if we're talking backup point guards, I think that fit might be a little more
He's real
sensical
small, right?
than like Cole Anthony. Yeah.
He's even smaller.
I mean, but he's played, yes, he is smaller than Cole Anthony for sure. And I mean, again, don't see a great fit in the backcourt with either of the Nuggets' current point guards. But if Monte were to leave, he could take over. A little too ball dominant for my taste. So he'd really have to maximize that talent as kind of a 6-man off the bench. But you like that he's active hands, lots of steals. And the Mountain West was talking to Justin Michael about him. He said, yeah, he's a good prospect, good player, good scorer, but a little too ball dominant.
Mm-hmm. Harrison, is there anybody else that you like in this draft that you just want to put a little notes in about from the guard spot?
There's a guy who's projected to go late in the first round out of France, Theo Maledon, 6'4" with a 6'8.5" wingspan. He's only 18 years old. He's getting mentored by Tony Parker right now. He's like not like a premier athlete, but he projects as like a classic backup point guard where he's like a great distributor out of the pick and roll, plays in control, great passer, like really mature for an 18-year-old. Kind of reminds you of like a Jeff Teague type where, you know, he's like a distributor but can do a little bit of everything.
Is this Dante Exum that you're describing?
Dante Exum had a chance. Dante Exum had like so many injuries, man. Like he had a chance to be a player. His career,
Maledon's a little more polished, I think, at this point. But I think he's intriguing if you're looking for a backup at the very end of the first round.
Here's a question overall. Like, do we care about fit with this pick? Like, do we know?
That's a good question.
Do we know if this player is ever going to actually fit into this current iteration of the Nuggets? And not only that, if we're talking about players that are going to match up next to Jokic, like, is this player ever going to match up with Jokic? Like, is this going to be playing with whoever replaces
Mason
Plumlee? I mean, should we just get like the best GD player on the board and then just see what happens? Like, you flip that guy, whatever. Like, I mean, should that be even a consideration? Just a question.
I mean, short answer, yes, for sure.
Oh, okay. Well,
and in a lot of ways, this draft should just be prolonging that cost-controlled asset that was Malik Beasley and Juancho, and now you're just, prolonging that, and you hope that this best player available can be a valuable asset or a valuable player one way or the other 3-4 years down the line.
Yeah, so you can take 2 first-round picks and turn them into one crummy first-round pick.
Exactly.
Vogt, we haven't talked about Desmond Bane. I know we've talked about him a little bit in the past, but he's a guy that will probably be available at 22.
Just seems like a winner to me. Shoots really well off movement. Could do just about everything at the college level. That'll probably be a little harder for him at the NBA. Kind of a tweener because he's that combo guard sort of wing thing.
Yeah.
But he's not super long.
Not long.
He's super not long, actually. But he's 6'6", and he's got like a good standing reach. So, I mean, if he's playing a guard position, the size isn't necessarily an issue. But that defensive versatility, which he maybe would boast potentially because he's so strong, such a smart guy, might be a little limited. That said, I still think this is a guy that is going to crack an NBA rotation one day. Can defend, can put the ball on the floor a little bit, apparently can shoot the hell out of the ball. I know it's the college line, but shooting off DHOs, coming off screens, shooting on ball, he did it all. So this is a player, I've said it 40 times now. I don't see how he gets past Miami because he just seems so tailor-made for what they're doing right now.
Just the arm span, the wingspan. He's got Svila Mikhailov's body.
Yeah.
You know, and the other thing about him, you look at the skill sets when it comes to a guy like Bane, and the one thing he doesn't do well in college is finish at the rim. And you only get harder to finish at the rim in the NBA, like a lot harder. That's one of the skills that gets a lot harder. So if you already kind of can't do that against, Iowa, then you're probably not going to be able to do it.
That's a good point. But, he could be, and I think even more so than some of these guys we've talked about, Tyrese and Cole, like when they put the ball on the floor, it's to get themselves buckets. I don't think Bane, he's not a traditional point guard, but he's one of the best non-point guards at passing in this draft, in my opinion. So there's an NBA skill set there. But yeah, the finishing at the rim and the wingspan are probably the biggest concerns.
Yeah, I also I want to make a Bane shirt really badly. I want to make Bane jokes. I want to talk about
Bane.
Yeah, I want to talk about how you adopted the ball arena, but we were born into it. You know what I mean? Like, let's make this happen.
You have no concerns on his lateral quickness defensively, Vogt?
I have some. Yeah, he has concerns. I do think the athletic, everything he does at the next level, I think will be a little bit harder because he's not a transcendent athlete.
Yeah.
So that's why I don't think he would ever be a star. But I do think this can be a back of the rotation guard sooner rather than later.
All right, let's get to AJ's pick here. Of course, AJ Hafley, our Avalanche expert, chiming in here on the Nuggets draft. Josh Green, to me, is probably the single most likely pick. If the Nuggets take a guard, if you told me the Nuggets take a guard in the 2020 draft, I would say almost certainly Josh Green. So I think in addition to being people's favorites, he's also the most likely if he's available there at 22, which I think there's a good chance there will be. Andre, give us the skinny on him.
Oh, man. I know you guys love him. I try to sell myself on him when I look at the AAU stats, where he really was impressive, more impressive than guys like Jaden McDaniels or even James Weissman. Played for an elite West Coast elites, him and Nico Mannion. Didn't translate in college on the off. There you go. That is a little nugget for you. Just didn't translate at the college level offensively. It can get pretty ugly for him at times as far as creating his shot. Can get a little reckless driving to the hoop, but he did shoot 46% in his last 10 games from three, so that's promising and has people really enticed. And then he's a superb athlete. He's built like Bane, but he's got the length. And yeah, he looks great. And what I do like about him, he fits with the Nuggets a little offensively. There's some flair as far as wanting to play make and stuff. I just don't know how far away he is from being even semi-serviceable on offense to work in them. And AJ is going to hate me for that.
Harrison, what do you think?
I love Josh Green. I've been a big Josh Green guy throughout the last couple of weeks. He was on a kind of a stacked college team that the sum of its parts wasn't as good as it should have been because he had he had Nico Mannion on his team, a high usage point guard. He had Zeke Naji as well, who's a center who had a lot of offense. He took a lot of shots as well. What I like about Green is he's got the body. I feel like he should be a good 3-point shooter. He's got the defense. So he's got a lot of core tenets that I think you look for in a wing prospect. And then you just kind of have to add stuff to it. And he seems like a worker. He seems like a really good kid. So I just think like the outline of a really good wing is there. And he's super young too. He's only 19.
That's the concern I have, though, is how much of an upgrade can he be offensively to Torrey Craig?
What do you think, Vogt? Would he be better than Torrey Craig on offense?
You guys are. I'm kind of losing you. We're talking Josh Green here, right?
That is, yeah. You're not losing you. You're watching YouTube videos or
no. You guys are going in and out. I am actually losing you.
I'm just messing.
I am here for the show. Josh Green is the pick to me. I just think it's the Gary approximate. It makes you that much more comfortable with including Gary in a trade. He's longer, and again, like we've talked about it a lot, but for everything Gary does well defensively, the Nuggets got to the conference finals, and like, who does he guard? And I just think Josh Green's a little more versatile. And so look, he's got to be a consistent outside shooter. He's got that catch and shoot promise. I think his path to being in an NBA rotation is knocking those shots down consistently. This is one of, if not my favorite picks at 22. Should he be there?
Here's something about the Torrey Craig comp. Torrey Craig was 27 when he played his first season in Denver. Josh Green is 19. So he's like 8 years younger than Torrey Craig is going to be when he was on Denver. So he's got a lot of room to grow.
Yeah. I like him too at 22. I also think he might be a guy that spends a year on the bench just working on his offensive game, working on his jumper, and that would be good for him
too. Yeah,
maybe even down into the G League. So I think that with Josh Green specifically, I like that pick. I also think it's possible. The only thing keeping me from thinking it's a likely pick for Denver, one, he might not fall. There's some mocks have him like 18, 19, 20, 21, so not far ahead, but a little bit ahead. But the other thing is, he doesn't seem like a Tim Conley guy. Tim Conley loves shooters. How many non-shooters have Tim Conley drafted? I mean, even like the Leiden pick was picked because he can shoot. So taking the guy, Thomas Welsh was picked because he could shoot. Like Tim Conley just seems to really, really, really value shooting. And
how do we have a team full of non-shooters then?
It's crazy, isn't it?
But something else Tim Conley values is guys who just are like addicted to basketball and love being in the gym and are selfless. I think Josh Green checks those boxes too.
I'm so curious, man. Like, the reality is starting to sit in, and this is going to be one of the themes. Again, our draft show, somebody asked earlier in the comments, like, you guys should go live. We're going to be live for 4 hours in Draft Night, starting at 5 o'clock.
We will definitely be live.
We've all been like, we're going to be going live from the bar. So even, you can come out to the bar. We'll have it on the screens and everything like that. We'll have some cool stuff going on, but we're going to be at the bar. Andre's going to be there giving us some bets, some different things to bet on. It's going to be a full production, guys. This is a thing we've been working on now for quite a while, ramping up towards it. So it's going to be, trust me, you're going to want to be locked to it. It's going to be one of the most fun things we do all year long, and it's just going to be tons of coverage. You always watch draft shows on ESPN or whatever. They're just talking about what the Lakers can do or this. We're going to be all Nuggets all the time. Obviously analyzing every other team, but through the lens of the Denver Nuggets, and it's just going to be great. I'm so excited for it. We've been working behind the scenes, like I said, to make this thing cool. So you're going to want to tune into that, but the reality is hitting me that the Nuggets just add to their team. Their team's going to be different. 1 week from now, they're going to be different than they are right now in some way. Maybe it's a small way, maybe it's a major way, and it's exciting. I'm so curious to see what this next version of the Nuggets looks like. Andre, thanks for hopping on, man. That was fun.
Thank you, guys. Yeah.
Hold on, we never got Andre's Italian breakdown of Bolmaro.
Oh yeah.
As we head out of here, just sell us on Bolmaro very, very hard here.
Dovete scegliere Leandro. Leandro è l'unica scelta logica. Può giocare, può fare tutto. Prendete Bolmaro.
Too perfect. Exactly what I wanted that to be.
I'm sold.
I'm so sold too.
Did you see Tyler Hero come?